Revealed, 10 spine-chilling true encounters with sinister feral people in haunted Appalachia. The tales echo through the valleys of the Appalachians like a cold wind, stories of unsettling sightings and whispers of feral people lurking in the shadows. Laura, a single mother seeking refuge, has just moved her 2 young children into a dilapidated farmhouse deep in these hills. With her past life marred by abuse, she dreams of a fresh start. Yet, as she unpacks boxes amidst the towering trees and misty mountains, a growing sense of unease wraps around her like a tightrope. At first, the silence seems calming, but as dusk falls, an unnatural stillness blankets the land, broken only by the rustling leaves, as if they conspire to share foreboding secrets. "This is what freedom feels like," she whispers to herself, but her heart races. Shadows flit just outside her vision, darting between the trees, vanishing the moment she tries to catch a glimpse. Dismissing it as exhaustion, she forces a smile for her children, who are blissfully unaware of the dread creeping into her bones. The neighbors deliver wary glances, eyes filled with a mix of pity and fear. Their mutterings include ominous warnings about strange figures that roam the mountains, beings that emerge when twilight descends and prey on the vulnerable. Laura makes her way to the local store, where hushed conversations slice through the air like a knife. Feral people, they whisper, their faces pale and eyes wide, recounting tales of those who went into the woods and never returned. With each passing day, oddities plague her attempts at normalcy. Claw marks mar the porch, livestock vanish as if they never existed, leaving only a cold trail of mystery in their wake. A creeping sense of terror bathes her thoughts, every creak of the old house sending shivers down her spine. Yet, amidst the chaos, her children's laughter is a warmth she clings to, a fragile bond to innocence. Just when it seems all hope might die, a charismatic local man named Billy arrives, claiming to be the community leader. He smiles, offering help with open arms. Laura feels the weight of relief, but as they talk, whispers of his reputation hang heavy in the air. There's darkness in his stories of old traditions, rituals that speak of the land's grip on its inhabitants. Her heart aches with suspicion, the line between protector and predator shifting like shadows in the forest. One afternoon, Laura ventures into the woods with her children, wandering until she stumbles upon a clearing etched with strange markings. They seem to shiver under her touch, warning something lies just beyond. Unease gnaws at her insides, and she feels the temperature drop, her breath fogging as her children's laughter falls away. Then, for an instant, time halts. Her son gasps, and all hope drains away as he points toward a dark figure gliding silently among the trees, its eyes gleaming like a hunting beast. Panic surges through her veins as she tightens her grip around their small hands, fear propelling them back home. Shadows cling to the house as night descends. Doors are barricaded, her heart racing as distant howls punctuate the silence, a symphony of terror playing just outside their sanctuary. An unseen threat looms closer, clawing at the edges of their lives, tightening its grip. She recalls the whispered tales of families gone missing, leaving behind nothing but heartache and unsolved mysteries. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications, so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With every howl echoing through the night, Laura casts a wary glance at the windows, shadows shifting just beyond the glass. The comforting thought that she had found safety in this remote sanctuary with her children slips further away. Every noise sends her heart into a frenzy as whispers of dread swarm around her. What if the true nightmare isn't just lurking in the woods, but hiding in their very own home? The chilling howls fade to an eerie silence, leaving a heaviness that presses against Laura's chest. Her hands tremble as she grips the kitchen table, the splintered wood digging into her palms. The shadows outside are restless, they shift and lengthen as the wind whips through the trees, a low moan that sends chills racing down her spine. Heart pounding, she plants herself in front of the window, the frigid glass fogging against her breath. Her children are asleep, blissfully unaware of the dark cloud creeping closer. But sleep eludes her. It feels like a betrayal to close her eyes, knowing what could be lurking just outside the weak defenses of her home. Shadows dance in her peripheral vision, and every rustle of the underbrush makes her jump. She forces herself to look away but finds herself drawn back again, scanning the darkness for any hint of movement. Then she hears a soft thud against the back door. An animal? Or something worse? She moves quietly, every creak of the floor sounding like thunder in the oppressive quiet. Laura reaches for a forgotten baseball bat leaning against the wall, her fingers curling around it, its weight both comforting and heavy with potential violence. She takes a deep breath and walks toward the door. The wood is thick and solid, metaphorically fortifying against the nightmares beyond it. But as she leans closer, doubts snag her resolve. Perhaps she should just ignore it, let whatever it is be. Yet, the thuds from outside come again, a rhythm that quickens her pulse. With a steely resolve, she grips the handle, heart thundering in her ears. In one swift motion, she flings the door open. The night greets her with a gust of wind, and there barely illuminated by the moonlight stands a figure. A child or something resembling a child, but twisted. Its limbs are gnarled, and its face obscured by tangled hair. The creature's movements are jerky, unnatural, like a puppet with strings pulled by an unseen hand. "Help," it rasps, voice a whisper that cuts through the air. Laura's breath catches, a primal instinct urging her to slam the door, to shield her children from whatever this thing is. But a flicker of compassion wrestles within her, the urge to protect overwhelming any sense of self-preservation. "Mommy?" A small voice captures her attention, and she whips around to see her son standing at the threshold, eyes wide and full of innocence. His small figure blocks her path back inside, and her heart sinks. She can't let him see this thing. "Get inside, now." She hisses, hoping the urgency will make him comply. But the creature's gaze drifts to the boy, locking in an unsettling way that stirs a deep fear within her. The boy hesitates, bewildered by the sight of the creature that resembles a child yet something far more primal and terrifying. "Come play," it whispers again, a too wide smile stretching across its face, revealing teeth too sharp to belong to anything human. "Get away." Laura screams, shoving her son behind her, the bat raised as if it could protect them both from the inhumanity that stands before them. Just then, the creature shrieks, a sound that reverberates through the forest, as if calling to others lurking in the shadows. The air grows heavy with an impending dread, and every instinct in her screams to retreat, but the door stands wide open. As she readies herself to act, a rustle emerges from the trees, an awful confirmation that they're no longer alone. Something else is out there, drawn by the creature's wail. What had once seemed an innocent embrace of nature becomes a stage for a much darker play. "Run!" Laura yells to her son, panic igniting every nerve in her body. She knows they must escape before they're surrounded. But the shadows shift again, closing in. With one last glance at the grotesque figure, she races back toward the safety of the house, her heart feeling like a drumbeat of dread, and a chilling thought echoes in her mind: what else is waiting for them in this deep, haunted darkness? As Laura yanked her son back inside, the door slammed shut behind them. Her breath came in gasps, filling the air with a desperate urgency. The bat felt heavy in her hands, a futile weapon against what lay outside. The walls of her home, once a sanctuary, now felt like prison bars. "Mommy?" Her son whimpered, clinging to her leg. She knelt down, gripping his shoulders, forcing herself to meet his innocent gaze. "I need you to listen very carefully. We have to be very quiet." No matter what happens, the words echoed in her mind like a mental mantra. A low rumble thudded outside, the rhythm matching the pounding of her heart. The creature's whispers seeped through the cracks of her home, filling the corners with unsettling promises of play. "Help, come play." The timbre of its voice twisted like a knife, scratching at her resolve. She glanced out the window again, dread pooling in her stomach. The shadows beyond seemed to shift and swirl as if they were alive. Here and there, she caught glimpses of movement, shapes slinking through the darkness, drawn to the creature like moths to a flame. "Mommy!" Her son's small hand tugged at her. "What is happening?" "I'm scared." "Me too," she whispered, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. In that moment, she understood the unthinkable: she had to protect him at all costs. The primal instinct to shield her child ignited a new resolve within her. "Stay here," she said, nodding towards the kitchen. He hesitated, and she added, "I promise I'll come back. I need to check the house." He nodded, fear softening his features as he scampered to the back of the room, seeking refuge among the familiar warmth of the kitchen's shadows. Laura took a steadying breath, clenching the bat tightly, heart racing with every step she took. The silence felt drenched in tension. Every creak of the floorboards was a thunderclap. She edged toward the kitchen window and peered out. The moonlight illuminated the clearing beyond, revealing the figures, more of them now, grotesque versions of children, their eyes glinting like feral animals. They danced in the underbrush, limbs twisting at unnatural angles, overwhelming in their urgency. "Come play," they called together, a chorus that sent vibrations through her bones. Her stomach churned, terror clawing at her insides. "What do you want?" she whispered, half hoping they would respond with something resembling reason, but they only continued their chant, pulling her closer to the edge of sanity. Suddenly, a new sound broke through the shred of a scream, distant but clear. It splintered the eerie harmony and sent a shiver racing down her spine. It didn't belong to the children outside. Her heart stopped as reality slapped her with horror. "Lucas!" she screamed, spinning back toward him. But her son had vanished from her line of sight. Terror clawed at her throat. "Lucas!" she shouted again, panic igniting her every nerve. She scanned the room frantically, heart hammering hard enough to break her ribs. The world outside shifted again as the chorus of voices swelled, almost celebrating the fear she felt. "Come play," they sang. A frenzy pulsed beneath the ground, her home reverberating with a malevolence she had never imagined. Then, a soft giggle chimed from the hallway. It was a child's laugh, tinkling yet filled with malice. She felt her blood run cold. With a rush of adrenaline, she sprinted toward the sound, dread clawing at her insides. "Lucas! Where are you?" Footsteps echoed behind her, but she couldn't stop to look back. The air felt thick, almost viscous, as if it were alive with dread. "Come play," a voice echoed behind her now, almost mocking. She rounded the corner, mind racing as she reached for the light switch, but her fingers encountered only cold plaster. The darkness swallowed her whole, and she tried to steady her breath, praying it wasn't too late. And then she heard it, a whisper ratting in the shadows, wrapping around her ears, tightening like a vice. "We're waiting." Just then, an icy hand clamped down on her shoulder. "Mommy, can I go play?" Lucas said, his innocent quiz cutting through the darkness, sending her spiraling into horror. What had he become? What awaited her in that smothering blackness? Instinct screamed for her to flee, but the voice in the dark drew closer, sweet and menacing. Laura stood frozen, heart racing as shadows loomed around her. Would she be able to save him before it was too late? Laura's heart pounded in her chest, the innocent face of her son twisting into something nightmarish in her mind. "Lucas," she stammered, venom in her throat. Dread clawed at her thoughts like those twisted figures outside. He stood before her, yet he looked different, as if something else lurked beneath his skin. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but the fetid darkness coiled around her, rooting her to the spot. "Please, Mommy. I want to play." The sweetness in his voice drenched in a honeyed menace. The warmth of his small hand on her shoulder felt like fire and ice. "No. You need to stay here," she managed, the bat quivering in her grip. The shadows seemed to swell, rippling against the plaster walls, closing in. "Come play." The chorus rippled around her, voices echoing and circling, promising gleeful abandon in play, yet tainted by the sinister unknown. Each chant was another nail pressing deeper into her sanity, she took a hesitant step back, eyes darting around to grasp her fading options. She pushed her fear for Lucas aside, the tremors in her hands becoming harder to suppress. He was her priority, above all else. We need to leave now. Just follow me, bud. But Lucas stood eerily still. His gaze held no innocence, only the pale gleam of stark hunger. As she stepped toward him, the light flickered, casting grotesque shadows across the walls. Then, just as quickly, it dimmed until the house was suffocated in impenetrable black. Panic surged through her like electricity, an instinct so primal it threatened to consume her. "Lucas!" she shouted, swallowing hard, a desperate plea. The giggles echoed again, disturbing yet fascinating. Laughter that felt like a distant memory taunting her senses. She could almost see the silhouettes of the children dancing outside, their distorted forms weaving closer, luring and beckoning. With every fiber of her being, she inched forward, back gripped tight. "We need to go to the front door. Trust me." Her voice trembled, but it was steady enough for him. She felt the weight of the door ahead like a fortress against the chaos, but the giggles grew into a cacophony, accompanied now by muffled thuds. Her mind raced. Was it the children? Or something more sinister, filling the spaces between reality and nightmare? "Come play." The voices turned darker, the lilting rhythm dripping with mockery as if taunting her fragile sanity. The air vibrated with anticipation. The way down the hallway twisted, the shadows melding into figures that slithered against the walls. Desperation bubbled within her. "We're leaving now," she hissed, grabbing Lucas's shoulder, only to feel him shudder beneath her touch. What had he seen? What had he come to know? Suddenly, blinding light erupted. A beam cut through the murky darkness, igniting the room. Laura spun around, squinting into the brightness, and froze. At one end of the room stood a figure, its face obscured beneath a hood, shrouded in a cloak that draped like a funeral shroud. "You shouldn't have come here," it rasped, voice jagged and rough as gravel. The laughter faded, devoured by the new presence. The shadows trembled as if recoiling from the figure, every fiber of her being screamed halt. "Leave my son alone," Laura ground out, her voice stronger than she felt. But her heart raced. What if this being wasn't here to help? The cloaked figure stepped into the light. A gasp tore from her lips, horror crashing like waves against her resolve. It looked too familiar, its eyes glowing with the knowledge of every parent's darkest fear. "You do not understand what is at stake, do you?" Then, with a chilling smile, it swept an arm toward the window, where the moon hung high, silhouetting the grotesque children outside, their twisted forms now gaping with open mouths, beckoning her to join their dance. Would she dare save Lucas, or would she plunge into the same abyss from which those wretched spirits had arisen? "Mommy!" Lucas's voice broke through, but she was torn. "Come play." The chorus resumed, more insistent, drowning out her thoughts. Laura took a step back, trembling finger hovering near the bad's grip. Could she protect him from whatever lay ahead? As the figure reached toward her, intent unreadable, Laura stood at a precipice of terror, wondering how deep her love for her child would drive her into darkness. What fate awaited her just beyond this threshold? The figure's eyes, those dark pits of knowledge, locked onto Laura with an unsettling intensity. A frozen moment lingered, filled with the silent screams of unspoken fears. For a heartbeat, time stood still, and then reality shattered as the cloaked entity lunged forward. "Mommy!" Lucas screamed. In that instant, the veil between her world and the abyss thinned. A haunting choir of disembodied laughter washed over her, echoing within her skull. She felt her sanity slipping, fraying like old threads. "Get back!" Laura shouted, her gripped bat raising instinctively. She leaped between Lucas and the figure, heart hammering against her ribs. The grotesque laughter morphed into a visceral growl, vibrating through her bones, threatening to uproot her. "Look closer, Laura," it croaked, each word slathered in deceit. "This is not your son. This is what they've made him." Was it true? Doubt gnawed at her as she glanced at Lucas, his small form twisted in fear, lips quivering. "I'm right here, Mommy." Lucas's plea, an echo trying desperately to pierce through the madness. But the edges of reality blurred and shifted. She wanted to believe him, yet, the shadows danced and snapped like jagged teeth, clawing for her. Her grip on the bat faltered as her vision swam. Was that her son or something darker? The figure stepped closer, a grotesque smile elongating its features. "You must choose," it rasped, pointing a skeletal hand toward the window. Outside, the skeletal children writhed, wringing laughter and sorrow alike from the corners of her mind. They called to her, their joy twisted with unfathomable hunger. Join them, save him. Sound throbbed in her ears, a tumult of chaos, her own frantic breaths, the joyous cries of torment, the pleading tone of her son. She forced her shrinking thoughts to focus, wrestling against the tide of terror. "What do you want?" Laura demanded, defiance flickering in her chest. "Only what you can give your fears, your despair." "Let it all go," the figure said, voice oily and seductive. "In exchange, you will have what you wish. Eternal playfulness, safety from despair. But first, your choice." An overpowering sense of wrongness surged through her. Could she compromise her very soul? Would she even recognize her son anymore if she gave in? The laughter crescendoed, threatening to drown her in a flood of darkness. "Mommy!" Lucas cried again, and in that moment, the light dimmed once more. Dread coiled tightly around her, the walls began to breathe in sync with her terror. "Mommy, please!" Lucas's plea melted into a whisper as shadows reached out, pulling him toward the window. "Help me!" "No!" Laura screamed, lunging forward, bat swinging wildly as panic fueled her body. But the figure was quicker. It shot forward, claws aimed straight at her child. Time slowed, the air thickening around them. Laura's vision narrowed, consumed with the horror of losing Lucas to the void. "Stay away from him." The figure hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty flashing through its inhuman eyes. "Mommy!" Lucas's voice echoed, resonance mixing with the laughter that spiraled into an eerie harmony. Was this all truly real? The heart-wrenching choice laid bare before her the fathomless darkness or the haunting torment of playful spirits. Her thoughts raced, spurred by desperation. She sucked in a sharp breath, ready to fight with every ounce of fury. The bat arched a lethal arc, glinting in the pale moonlight. But just as she struck, the cloaked figure twisted, its laughter fractured into something sinister. "Then suffer for what you love most." Suddenly, the room collapsed into a whirlwind of chaos. Shadows engulfed her, yanking her into the swirling void, where a world of searing laughter and resonance awaited. The air thickened, and a rift yawned before her, pulling her closer to the dark abyss. As she wrestled against the consuming force, her heart pounded wildly. Would she trade her son's innocence for a chance at survival? Or would the darkness finally claim them both? "Lucas!" She screamed, but the void held back. What horrors lurked beyond the shadows? How deep would she have to go to rescue the child she knew? Laura felt herself plummet into the depths of blackness, the air around her thick with whispers and distant giggles. She reached out, fingers clawing at the void, but it only deepened, swallowing her screams whole. With every beat of her heart, she felt the warmth of Lucas slip further from her grasp. Shadows danced all around, ghostly figures writhing with malicious delight, their faces contorted in mockery. She had to fight. She had to save him. "Lucas!" she cried, her voice ripping through the void, clinging to the last thread of hope. "I'm coming. Stay with me." The laughter grew louder, drowning her in a sea of chilling joy. They were everywhere, pointing and jeering, their eyes sparkling with a cruel luminescence. She was surrounded by memories twisted into nightmares. How could she defeat such a power? Then, from the depths, she heard the faintest echo of Lucas's voice. It was softer, almost lost. "Mommy, help me." Focusing on that fragile sound, Laura felt determination surge. With an iron will, she forced herself to expel the darkness around her. It felt like swimming against a current, her limbs heavy against the relentless tide. Enough! She gasped, her voice echoing in defiance. You won't take him from me. The shadows recoiled momentarily, the laughter faltering. Laura saw a flicker of light, barely illuminating a path ahead. It was a fleeting glimpse, but it ignited a fire deep inside her. She pushed forward, plunging into that promise of clarity. The world around her shifted. She found herself back in a distorted replica of her living room, but it was darker, the corners brimming with flickering shadows. The figure stood tall, its eyes gleaming like obsidian, and Lucas was here trapped within its grasp, shaking in helpless terror. Laura, it hissed, words laced in malevolence. I've come to offer you a deal. No. She screamed, heart racing. Let him go. Join us, it intoned, extending clawed fingers. All your anguish, all your fears, they can be washed away. Just let him become one of us. Lucas whimpered, casting fearful eyes toward Laura. The essence of survival surged through her. This was not just about saving her son, it was about guaranteeing his innocence, fighting against the darkness that longed to swallow him whole. I want to let you take him. I refuse. Her voice rang with unyielding resolve as she stepped forward, the bat still clutched in her hand, but the figure laughed, a hollow sound that echoed endlessly. You don't understand, dear Laura. It is you who does not have a choice anymore. Fear grows in dark corners, and it is fed by despair. You're not strong enough for this fight. Suddenly, the shadows lunged, slashing through the air like striking vipers. Laura swung the bat with all her might, striking nothing but air. It felt like fighting smoke, her blows met with chilling laughter that seemed to mock her very existence. With every swing, the figure only grew more monstrous, morphing, expanding in height and shadow. Still, Lucas's terrified face haunted her resolve. She couldn't falter. Lucas! She screamed again, reaching, desperate to bridge the growing chasm. In a final, reckless act, she hurled the bat at the figure. It whirled, the impact resonating like a gunshot, fracturing the air. For the briefest moment, the dark figure stood faltering, swept away by the thrumming chaos. Run! Laura shouted, somehow knowing what needed to be done. If she could divert its attention. Focusing on the swirling shadows, she hurled herself towards the glimpse of reality behind the figure. The darkness roared in rage, tendrils reaching for her, but she pushed through, determination fueling every ounce of strength. She flew toward the flickering light, the laughter abruptly silenced. Was it hope? Freedom? But just as she thought she could reach Lucas, she froze, her heart pounding, eyes wide. The figure's voice echoed around her, chilling and clear. You can run, but you cannot hide. The darkness will find you. It always does. The room began to collapse again, the edges of her reality tearing like paper. Panic swelled within her, but something deep inside whispered that this was her only chance. And then, just as the unbearable darkness clawed back at her, a glimmer of sound broke through, a faint laughter, lighter, softer. Not from the shadows or ghosts but from Lucas. Mommy! But what did it mean? With horror setting in, she felt the ground tremble beneath her feet. Was Lucas still out there, or had she truly lost him to the abyss? What was waiting for her in the dark? Would she ever find her way back to her son? Laura's heart raced as the shadows loomed like hungry wolves, and all she could hear was that haunting laugh. It was Lucas, his voice mingling with the darkness, the swells of despair tugging her back towards the void. Mommy! The innocent cry pierced through the chilling air, a lifeline, while the reality around her twisted like a carnival mirror. Panic flooded her senses as the room threatened to unravel. She had to move, had to find him. The dark corners squirmed, shifting like living entities, inching closer as they whispered her name, echoing with an eerie delight. The walls pulsed, pushing against her as if pressing her back, trapping her in this nightmare. Lucas! She screamed, voice cracking under the weight of desperation. She turned to search the shadowy expanse, eyes straining to find her son. "Where are you?" A sliver of light flickered in the haze, inviting and taunting. Could it be the path to Lucas? Gritting her teeth, she surged towards it, propelled by a mixture of fear and fierce maternal instinct. But the shadows snarled and snapped their ethereal jaws, almost tangible, the cold biting into her skin. "Flee!" A chorus of whispers darted around her, chilling her to the bone. "Leave us be, it's too late." But she wouldn't listen. She wouldn't allow fear to dictate her fate. With each step, she imagined Lucas holding her hand, his small fingers gripping tightly. The thought warmed her against the frost of the encroaching shadows. As she neared the light, she felt a strange shift. The room began to ripple, like heat waves on summer asphalt. She hesitated, glanced back. Darkness seemed more alive, more furious, stretching toward her like a monstrous claw. "Mommy!" The sound exploded again, this time from a direction she hadn't anticipated. Her heart raced. Was it coming from behind her? Or was it merely the twisted echoes that taunted her? "Lucas!" She shouted again, fear morphing into fury. She had to face whatever lay behind. With clenched fists, she spun around, prepared to confront the shadows. There it was, the dark figure looming larger than before, its face an amalgamation of nightmares, contorted and hideous. It seemed to ripple and pulse, eager, hungry. "Did you think you could escape?" It crooned, the sickly sweetness coating its words like poison. "I have him, he is already part of this world. Come join us. Get away from him." Laura's voice surged with an unearthly strength. The fear was palpable, yet beneath it thrummed an unwavering resolve. Suddenly, the figure stopped, its expression shifting as if it sensed her determination. A flicker of confusion crossed its features, an opening. Shaking, Laura seized the moment. "Lucas!" she cried, her heart echoing the desperation in her voice. "I'm here." Then she felt an icy grip around her ankle. One of the shadows had crept closer, its fingers icy and ethereal, pulling her down. She stumbled, her knees striking the floor hard. "No!" she gasped, fighting against the grip tightening around her. But the darkness swarmed, shadows flaring like a black tide eager to overwhelm. With a shout of defiance, she ripped her leg free, clenching her eyes shut, imagining Lucas's laughter. The sweet sound surged again through her mind, a warm balm in the chilling dark. "Mommy, help!" This time, the voice sounded stronger, as if it were coming from a direction she could follow. In that moment, a flicker ignited within her, a true promise she could grasp. She leapt to her feet, scrambling toward the flickering light that was growing brighter by the second. The figure howled in frustration, the shadows grinding and writhing in chaos behind her. "Run, Mommy!" The voice rang clear this time. Just as she felt light brush against her fingertips, a hand shot out from the darkness behind her, freezing her in place. "Join us," it rasped, the voice dripping with malice. Forever. Laura's heart slammed against her ribcage as the world around her shimmered. Was Lucas truly close? Or was this just another cruel trick of the darkness? And then, without warning, the room erupted into chaos. What was waiting for her? Beyond that light? Would she find Lucas, or would the shadows finally claim her? The shadows surged, a tidal wave of darkness intent on dragging her under. Laura barely had a moment to breathe before the landscape twisted again, shifting like a mirage. The flickering light grew brighter, but every ounce of warmth it promised felt intertwined with bitter cold. "Mommy! I'm scared." The voice quivered, each syllable tugging at her heart. It was Lucas, lost yet so achingly close. "Hold on, baby. I'm coming." Her voice cut through the chaos, a lighthouse in a storm, as she propelled herself forward. The light called to her, brighter than before, but the shadows retaliated, swirling and gripping at her limbs with icy fingers. They clawed at her with cruel intent, their whispers like a chilling wind, breathing foul words of despair. "Stay," they hissed. Stay forever. She swung her arms, desperately trying to break free. Every ounce of will surged through her as she recalled the feel of Lucas's little hand in hers, warm and safe. Don't let go, Lucas. I'm almost there. With a mighty push, she dove forward, the light before her now radiant and molten like a sun. But just as she reached out, the ground beneath her seemed to split like a dark chasm. Anguished screams erupted from every shadow, drowning her in a cacophony of despairing cries. She hit the ground, hands slamming against the cold, hard floor, and pain shot through her palms. The shadows danced around her, becoming feral creatures, their eyes glinting with malice. They prowled closer, hunger evident in every movement, their forms flickering and weaving like smoke. Please. Just let me find him. She cried, tears blurring her vision. The shadows convulsed in response, laughing, their glee a venomous melody that echoed in her mind. Each pulse of light seemed to shrink, the walls pressing in tighter, as if the house itself sought to consume her. Just then, Lucas's voice pierced through the haze, as clear as day. Mommy. I'm here. She could hear him now, his tiny voice ricocheting against the walls, drifting like a paper boat caught in a storm. It tugged at her soul with unmistakable urgency. Laura gritted her teeth, fighting against the clutches of the tide, urging herself to move despite the suffocating darkness. The figure loomed closer, its eyes now a feral glint beneath whatever horror lay hidden within. You will not find him, it taunted, the sweetness corrupted by sinister intent. He belongs to us now. You all belong to us. No. Laura roared back, the fire of a mother's love igniting her spirit. With renewed determination, she pulled herself to her feet, every muscle screaming in protest. The grip of the shadows tightened for a moment, and the world around her swirled in a dizzying spiral of chaos. With one last glance back into the suffocating void stirred by the figure, she bolted toward the light, a shining promise that felt closer than ever. Lucas. Hold on to Mommy. She pleaded, as everything blurred and warped around her. But then, an icy finger brushed her neck, and a scream ripped from the depths of her throat. Join us, the ephemeral voice echoed, binding her with dread. The light's intensity flared, burning white-hot. Just as she reached for it, a furious scream erupted behind her. She turned on instinct. Lucas stood there, his small body silhouetted against an inferno of shadows, eyes wide with terror. Mommy. It hurts. Lucas. In that moment, all her fears coalesced, a damning understanding rippling through her. The shadows weren't just shadows, they were souls caught in endless torment, trying to warn her, to pull her back. Help me! But just as she took a step forward, the darkness lunged, sweeping her back to the brink. What would she choose? Lucas, or the shadows that wrapped around her with sickly embrace? The answer loomed terrifyingly close. The shadows murmured, promising escape, while the light flickered just beyond her grasp. Which way would she go? Would she fight for her son, or would the darkness claim her, too? Help! She screamed again, but this time, the voice sounded hollow. What awaited her in that searing light? Would she save Lucas, or was it too late for them both? Laura's heart raced, each beat pounding like a war drum in her ears. A shiver coursed through her as shadows lunged from every angle, their claws tearing at her resolve. Her mind raced with fiery thoughts. She had to reach Lucas. There was no question. But every inch felt like a battle against quicksand, the darkness dragging her down with its weight. Mommy! The cry cut through the suffocating haze, raw and pleading. Every syllable was a knife, slicing into the chaos around her. She turned toward the sound, desperation igniting a wildfire in her chest. Lucas! Just hold on. She clawed her way toward the echoing voice, fighting against fear. Shadows loomed, twisted forms morphing into grotesque versions of her deepest anxieties, the loss of her child, the thought of succumbing to this void. They whispered lies, sweet temptations coated in venom. Join us, echoed the hushed tones, almost melodic yet filled with a rancid promise. Clenching her fists until her nails dug into her palms, Laura sprinted, pushing back against the cacophony that sought to claim her mind. The ground felt alive beneath her feet, pulsating with dread. Each step sent jolts of agony through her body as if the house itself conspired against her. "Mommy! Help!" Lucas's cry morphed into a wailing lament, dragging her deeper into despair. Exhaustion pulled at her limbs, but the fire of motherhood burned brighter. "I'm coming!" she screamed, her voice wavering, echoing in the dim space. The walls, pulsing with malign energy, constricted tighter, as if they wished to squeeze her hope from existence. Suddenly, the light flickered again, darting like a wandering soul, but it felt alive, taunting. Come to me." It beckoned. In desperation, she reached out, feeling the warmth promise answers, freedom. But as she stepped forward, the shadows surged, grasping at her ankles, pulling her back. "You'll never leave, you're one of us now," screeches erupted from the shadows, an unholy choir rooting around her as they surged forward, each form more monstrous than the last. Their mouths opened wide, revealing darkness that threatened to devour her whole. As she stumbled, her mind screamed for clarity. Lucas's face hovered like a cherished memory, eyes wide and pleading. That was the spark she needed. Summoning every ounce of strength, she broke free of the grip, the shadows hissing and writhing in rage as she pushed toward the unforgiving light. "Lucas!" she yelled, a mix of anger and fear surging within her. "Stay away from them. I'm coming." He appeared, his soft silhouette battling the storm, eyes impossibly wide, filled with an innocence that pierced right through the darkness. But reality twisted, the shadows morphed around him, wrapping him as they had done to her. "Lucas, don't listen." She lunged toward him, feeling time stretch like a rubber band, moments colliding. The shadows recoiled, writhing as if in agony from her defiance. "Save him!" A voice howled, pulling her back just as she almost reached him. Shadows danced viciously, swirling like a tempest, shadows growing thick enough to snuff out the light entirely. "Join us," they whispered, a chorus of temptation, their voices coiling around her heart like a cold vice. She felt the edges of hope fray, but a whisper of resolve ignited her spirit once more. "No." Raising her voice, overshadowing their chorus, she shouted, "I will not leave him." With a fierce push, she dove deeper into the light's glow. The light pulsated and exploded outward, blinding yet inviting, illuminating twisted forms writhing in the darkness. But would it consume her, too? Would the shadows finally quell her spirit? The darkness shrieked, their cries morphing into a terrifying cacophony of despair as she took the final leap. Would she find Lucas waiting, or would she be swallowed whole? The choice throbbed like a living thing within her, a single heartbeat echoing, promising hope, yet the shadows bore down around her relentlessly. Where would she land? And was it already too late for them both? The light surged, pouring into the darkness like molten fire, wrapping around Laura's outstretched hand, pulling her forward with a fierce current. She could feel the dreadful weight of shadows swirling behind her, their whispers twisting and curling, desperate to reclaim her. "No," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "I won't give in." With her heart hammering, she lunged toward the beckoning glow. It felt tangible, warm and electric, igniting every nerve in her body. As if hearing her defiance, the darkness shrieked in outrage, the chilling sounds morphing into a haunting chorus of torment. "You can't escape," they cried, their voices melding into a single dissonant sound that curled around her, trying to draw her back into despair. But the light was brighter now, almost blinding, and within that brilliance, she saw a glimmer of hope, a familiar form. Lucas. He stood pulled between two worlds, eyes wide and pleading, his small body trembling. "Mommy!" he cried out, voice raw with fear. That word pulled her further, it ignited the maternal fire deep inside her. "Lucas! Come to me!" She shouted with everything she had, pushing through the darkness, drawing nearer. The moment felt like an eternity. Shadows lashed out at her, their icy fingers grazing her skin. "Join us," they whispered, but she shook her head violently. I will not join you. She screamed. Each word was a weapon, striking against the shadows that threatened to pull her under. Suddenly, the lights from the outside world seemed to coalesce into a beacon, radiating warmth that cut through the cold grasp of despair. Finally reaching Lucas, Laura dove forward, collapsing into his warmth. She wrapped her arms around him, their connection bursting with a fierce energy that surged through her, a love so powerful it felt like a shield against the encroaching nightmare. I've got you. She breathed, tears spilling down her cheeks. The shadows recoiled, as if scorched by their bond. Laughter turned to growls, their forms morphed into angry teeth and eyes, clawing at the edges of the light. You can't have him. She shouted, tightening her hold around her son. You will never take him from me. The radiant light pulsed, pushing back against the tides of darkness, illuminating the grotesque figures that clawed and twisted at the edges of their sanctuary. She felt Lucas shudder in her arms, but his small fingers curled tightly around her wrist, drawing strength from her defiance. Mommy, I'm scared, he whispered, but there was strength in his voice now, buoyed by the light that enveloped them. The shadows darkened, howling in fury as the space around them shrank. You're safe, she insisted, eyeing the furious, shifting shapes beyond them. Just hold on. We're going to make it. Taking a deep breath, Laura felt her pulse sync with the rhythm of the light, a heartbeat of hope igniting every last spark of courage within her. Together, they turned toward the light, now blazing like a sun. Let us go home. She shouted, and with that proclamation, she ran, pulling Lucas into the blinding brightness. The shadows screamed, their voices fading as they stretched and twisted, desperately grabbing at them, but the light surged forward, splitting the darkness like a knife. As they broke through, time seemed to shatter, reality folding in on itself as it shimmered and swirled. Suddenly, they fell. A hard thump jarred Laura awake. She gasped, pulling in deep breaths of clean air. They lay on the grass beneath the moonlit sky, surrounded by the quiet buzz of night. Lucas scrambled to his feet, wide-eyed. Mommy! He cried, a mix of wonder and delight. We're back. Laura sat up, heart racing, scanning their surroundings. A familiar sense of freedom washed over her. The bewitching darkness that had trapped them was now just a memory. Scraps of fear still flicked at the edges of her consciousness, but the vibrant, soft air brushed through her hair with gentle reassurance. Yeah, sweetheart, she whispered, reaching out. He stumbled into her arms, laughter bubbling between them. We made it. As they hugged, the once dreaded forest now felt alive with comfort again. Morning would come and fill the world with light. And they would be okay. They were going to be okay. Laura squeezed her son tightly, feeling the weight of their journey shift into hope. They could build a new life away from threats of shadows. She glanced back at the dense trees, a shiver running up her spine. For all its dangers, the experience had toughened her. She made it through that darkness, refused to succumb. With resolve firming her voice, she said, let us go find a place to sleep. Tomorrow, we start fresh. They stood, hand in hand, their laughter ringing back against the trees as they walked towards dawn. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Come on, smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to hear from you, and don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this conclusion. Together, let us keep our community thriving.